Good.
Good evening. Welcome to the Wareham Finance Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, February 9th at 6:30 or plus. And may I have the clerk call the roll, please?
Tom Worthing, Chair Bernie Pigeon, myself, Jerry Stefanski, God, help me,
Matthew Rose.
Matt Rose, and Don Camerano. 5 out of 9, we got a quorum.
Thank you. First item on the agenda was to review the town administrator's proposal. Now, obviously, he's not here, but I just wanted you aware of how conservative he did his projections and what is the potential. We're just looking at the governor's budget, and it looks almost, with the pluses and minuses, we're even, which doesn't help much anyway. Even is not the best thing to be. But one thing, since we're leading into it, his budget for the school department is $29,655,551. No, $26,655,551. Now, that is his, and that's a proposal, so I'm sure negotiations haven't been finished yet, but I don't imagine a plus or minus is going to mean much. Are you aware of that, Joyce, Kim? Yeah. Okay, then the next item on is the school committee proposed budget request, which I am certain you have a different figure than the one I just read. So by all means, would you like to present what you're requesting?
Hello,
Good evening.
how are you?
By all means. Yeah.
Okay, well, our net budget, our net request is $29,650,973. Our non-net request is $2,425,823, for a total of $32,076,796, which would be a 4% increase over this year's budget.
Kim, could I ask you to read those figures again, please?
Please, yes.
Okay, the net is $29,650,973. The non-net is $2,425,823, making it a total request of $32,076,796, which would be 4% over this year's budget.
Do you have each part's percent over compared to last year? Like of the 29,650, how much did that increase, and of the 24,25, how much? Do you have that, just for?
For each year,
No, just for last year's budget to this year's proposed. What was I guess the question is, what was last year's budget?
oh, so, okay. Last
For,
year,
for each of those, the net and the non-net.
I don't have the non-net, but I do have, it would be $30,843,073.
So you're asking less?
No.
It's 30 million against 33 million.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, got it.
Could I ask a question in that we're halfway through this year? How are you doing against the 30 million?
Well, please understand the 30 million really is not the actual number, because we have used circuit breaker, we've used some of our ESSER money to apply, but with that being said, we're right where we should be.
So you're 15 million into the year?
We're about 48% that we've spent.
It's not a linear budget, Tom.
No, well,
Meaning, there are things that occur up front, and there are things that don't occur, and they occur at the back end, so it's not a perfect linear line with respect to how the spending
but
goes.
somebody's gotta be looking against.
Oh, we are,
Oh,
every
yeah.
month, yes.
Yes.
What I'm saying is, we see the percentages, in the grand scheme of things, it's very close, but within the subtotals, sometimes it isn't close,
Okay.
that's all.
So, let me just talk a little bit about this budget. What this budget shows is we're honoring our request for our contractual obligations. The Unit A is 2.5, Unit B is 2.5, Unit C, we're in negotiations, and Unit D is 2.5. We're also going to be entering into negotiations with custodians, bus drivers, and cafeteria workers for next year. We've reflected a 10% increase in utilities, which that's what everyone is projecting. What we've also done, we've had a reduction of supplies. We'll have a reduction of staff for this budget, and we'll be applying district funds. We'll be applying circuit breaker in the amount of between $800,000 and $900,000. We'll also be using ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 money. We've seen an increased need with our students with nursing. We've had a number of students who have required one-on-one nurses or close nursing supervision, so we've been obligated to hire additional nursing. We've had to hire additional social workers to meet the ESSER requirements. We've hired additional teachers to help offset the COVID lapse. And we've had to hire additional drivers, bus drivers, because there's a shortage. We are paying a significant amount of money for out-of-district students to be transported. And that's an ongoing battle. We've seen an increase of students coming into us with significant needs that we've had to provide one-on-one support or small group support that's unexpected. And then we're struggling to find substitutes. So we're all the time looking to hire subs. We've put on a HVAC and plumber just because we know the importance of keeping our buildings HVAC working well and making the upgrades that we need to make with our systems. And that's been certainly a savings because we're not having to call companies to come in, so we have the in-house, so all we're paying really is parts. We've also been able to help the town out and have serviced some of their areas when they've needed plumbing or HVAC needs. So that's working out well for us. We've seen an increase in behaviors with our students, and so we've had to hire additional support there to help manage student behaviors. So it's not been an easy budget this year, and moving forward, there are some of the needs, our student needs are reflected in the budget. It's our hope that we can keep them, but there will be things lost.
You indicated you were going to have to reduce some staff.
Yes.
Is there a balance between the reductions in certain areas and the increase in others, i.e. the sped department?
Yes, we're trying to balance. The other thing that we're really working on is in 2 years or 3 years, when the ESSER monies have been exhausted, we can't leave the district with a false budget. So we have a plan that every year we'll be able to make reductions, so we'll mitigate that cliff.
And you're also limited with ESSER's monies and spending only X number of dollars on a year. You have 1.4, 1.9 this year?
Yeah, we had 1.8,
8, okay.
and in the next 2 years, we'll have 4.1.
You unfortunately don't have it on this side of the house. On your, the special needs, you're adding staff. Any idea how many? Because you have, I was extraordinary, I looked up the stats, and on the level of disabled, high needs, and there's a, you know, it's labeled about 73% either of the SPED grouping or of the students as a whole, that is the entire population. They said they have about a 26% is disabled in some way.
Yes. We've added several special education teachers this year, and we do not have any intention of adding additional special ed teachers for next year. We have received a budget request of a BCBA, which is behavior consultant, to work with students with behavior problems. It's our hope that we're able to keep that in the budget, just because there is a significant need. We're now to the point where we're starting to see retirements that we were not aware of earlier when we started planning our budget. And we've had some other shiftings going on. So we're hoping when all is said and done, we're able to make enough shifts that our layoffs will be negligible. But there will be layoffs. And we will not replace some positions.
Yeah.
I think the superintendent has very accurately presented the picture, and every single one of those dollars could be effectively spent. The Superintendent's Budget Advisory Committee consists of myself and Kevin Bergioli. We have been meeting on an ongoing basis, but we met specifically with Derek on Monday. We recognized his issues as well, and we have challenged the superintendent to, instead of, we meaning Kevin and myself, challenged the superintendent to come back with 3% increase instead of 4%. She has accepted that challenge. It won't necessarily be easy, but there is some good news. Some obvious good news is the fact that we expect to shed the cost of the Deacon School. In fact, we have shed the cost of the Deacon School. That has been given over to the town. As per the town meeting warrant that was passed, we have vacated Deacon School. We are vacating the multi-service center, which will also save the school department some money. But I think Derek has plans for that building, so I think he's happy about that. We are also, at this point in time, working with Derek and town council to see if because we think we can legitimately vacate the East Elementary School, which is a small, but nothing's insignificant these days, utility cost for us as well. So those are, relatively speaking, the easy parts. But we came to an understanding with Derek not only about this year, and as I said, we challenged the superintendent to see if she could meet a 3% increase instead of a 4%. But we came to an understanding also about what it would look like on an ongoing basis. And frankly, I've been in your chairs for 6 years, and I've been on the school committee for twice that long. And I've never had this kind of understanding from the town administrator from a planning on an ongoing basis. It was a very constructive, effective, cordial meeting, and I think, at least in my mind and in Kevin's mind, it gave us a basis, and I think Joyce probably shares that feeling as well, gave us a basis for thinking, okay, this is a very constructive new day in terms of our relationship with the town. That's all the good news. The really difficult struggle is going to be the fact that we're going to have to eliminate somewhere between $1 million and $1.5 million in spending in a couple of years. We will be able to cope with that because of ESSER money, but we're fully aware of the fact that we can't go into the budget year 3 years from now thinking that something's going to replace $4.1 million. It simply isn't going to happen. So we are looking at 3 specific areas. Unfortunately, Kim won't be around to guide us, but we hope we can effectively replace her. We're looking at 3 specific areas. And you'll be happy to know the first area we're looking at is not classroom teachers. But we think we can reduce, hopefully significantly, the administrative side of running the school district. Not insignificantly. And I say not insignificantly because there's a significant percentage of the administrative side, especially when you add health insurance, is a 6-figure plus salary. So that's a really significant thing to do, and it has, hopefully, will have virtually no impact on the education of the individual students involved. The second thing we're looking at is special education. We think there may be a better way to do it. By the way, this is not an easy task because as we're trying to do this, we also have an increasing number of people who are, when I started, seems like forever ago, maybe because it was, but when I first joined the school committee back in, I don't know, 2006 or 7 or something like that, we were looking at mid to high teens in terms of the percentage of the kids that were considered part of the SPED population. We're now in the mid to high 20s, depending on how you count it. That's a really big nut to deal with from a fiscal perspective and also from an education perspective. So, but we're still looking at that because we think there may be a better way of doing it. But I'm not an educator, I only play one, so to speak, on the school committee. So that's a second area that we're looking at, which will be difficult, but Kevin has expertise in this area as a former middle school principal, excuse me, that I don't have. And between the two of us, I think we're going to find a way to save some money there. And finally, and I don't think we have any choice about this, to get to that $1.5 million cut, we're going to have to look at class sizes. Now, I'm less talking about the elementary, where the data, the science says it's critically important that you don't go beyond a certain number. You can debate whether that number is 18, 19, 20, whatever, but once you start to get in the 20s with elementary school, the data suggests that learning is hampered. But we have a luxury, and I use that word advisedly, we have a luxury of having both AP, IB, and CP in our high school. And
Excuse me, Jack. The acronyms, would you?
Sorry.
Come on, please.
Yes, you're right.
We use them all the time.
Well, no, but you're looking at someone who has occasionally said to people, this is an acronym-free zone, so cool it. So International Baccalaureate is IB, AP, Advanced Placement, and CP is College Prep. So having all 3 and trying to fit all the students in who want what they want in the syllabus means that some of these classes can be unacceptably small. Even the principal, if he was sitting here, would say, hey, I planned for 10, 12, 14 kids, and all of a sudden when the dust settles for a variety of reasons, I'm looking at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids. So on a per kid basis, that's just too expensive. Now, it's great in the sense that it differentiates us from other high schools. It's not great because it costs a lot of money. So we have to come up with a way of reducing class sizes, especially in the high school, in a way that doesn't sacrifice the education of our kids, but saves us some money. So just for your perspective at a 100,000-foot level or whatever level you'd like to be, those are the 3 specific areas that Kevin and I, and for a few months longer, Kim are looking at to see what we can do. And those cuts will be phased in. Some of them will be natural, and some of them will not be. Will be phased in over the next 2 years, is the bottom line to that. So by the time we get to budget year, I can't even say this, 24, 25, is that correct? Yes, it sounds correct. We will have made these cuts one way or the other. And if we take our understanding with Derek, take the budget that we think we're going to be receiving for next year, add some percentages, we think we can cope with that. But it's going to be a major challenge. But frankly, When I started on the school committee way back in the middle of the last 2 decades ago, we had 3,500 kids, or close to it. Low 3,000s anyway. I guess you'd have to go back to 2000 to be at 3,500. We're now just a little over 2,000. It's time to downsize, especially in administration. So that's the summary that I hope is helpful from not the superintendent, because as I said, she accurately expressed the feelings of administration. That's the summary I think Kevin would be in complete agreement of the superintendent's advisory committee. Happy to take any questions if I generated any.
I have one word.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Can you put that maybe, budgetary wise, like, okay, if you wanna cut the administration, are you trying to work at a certain percentage of savings that you're trying to work on, or just that $1.5 million number? Or, in other words,
Well,
you know, what kind of percentage in administration financially drop are you trying to get?
if we could get somewhere between 30 and 50% of the cuts from administration, but I don't wanna, you know, hold me
I
to
know,
that.
I understand that, you don't wanna get, I'm just,
Don't hold me to that number.
I won't hold you to
But
anything, I'm
remember
just
that the
trying to
large-
see what you're working
Yes,
towards.
but the larger that number is,
Mhm.
the less we have to cut elsewhere.
Correct.
And the sped is gonna be a tough cut, and all of the social emotional issues, and we don't know in 2 years whether the learning loss that every district has experienced, how well we've done in dealing with that learning loss. But that's the area we're looking at first, and if we could get half of that from administration, I'd be thrilled.
Right.
Especially if some of that occurred, a percentage of that occurred with natural retirements.
Off the top of your head, do you know what the percentage administration is of the budget now?
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay, one other
And it
question.
would depend on how you calculated it too.
Okay, one other question. This year's 4%, what was last year's increase? Any idea, Doctor?
I think it was 4%
It
actually.
was 4% both years, thank you.
But we are challenging the superintendent to get to 3.
No, I understand. I just was curious of the number last year. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I would say the year before was 0, so we went from 0 to 4. And that was part of, I think what Derek tried to do is because we were 0 the year before, so that's why we were able to have 4% last year.
Yeah, he made that point two days ago. He said he really thought of it as a 2-year budget, and therefore, if we got a 0, it would have been unfair to give us 1.5% or 2% or something like that in the second year after a 0, because costs keep rising. And utilities are crazy. You guys know insurance has been crazy. So there are what we'll call uncontrollable. I'm not satisfied personally with the fact that it seems like the cost of running that building, even though we spent a lot of money to make it a green building, the cost of running that building is still gonna be pretty darn high, but that's because of what's happened to the cost of energy.
Tom?
The $4 million, is that a use it or lose it?
Yes, but you have a specific amount of time to use it.
Okay, so if you.
Once
if-
that
if-
time,
If you just said, I'm gonna set that as an endowment,
no,
off to the side, and it's gone in 2
it's
years
gone,
anyway.
it's
not there.
gone, yes.
Okay.
Good question. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and the other thing is that I wouldn't wait for 2 years. If you, of the things, that changes you wanna make in the high school, you just gotta do it.
We agree completely. We agree completely. But remember, we have a fiscal responsibility, but we also have a moral responsibility to the kids. And if we do it too soon, then the kids will suffer. And that's particularly true at the other two, the sped and the class sizes and all those sort of things. So we have to be really careful to balance those two critical things.
How do you intend to cope with, A, the learning loss, B, the reduction of 1% that you've projected, and the fact you have 1.9 million or 1.8 million sitting there as, i.e. surplus or ESSER funds?
I'll let the
There's
superintendent-
serious conflicts there.
Well, so we've been looking at the services that we're delivering, and we've been gathering data, looking at the efficiency of what we're doing, and making some adjustments to improve that way. We're also, we've been looking at where we've seen some learning loss with students occurring, and we've been pushing in services this year with the hope that in the next 2 years or in the next year, we'll be able to fade it back. We're just getting ready to receive some test results now that will let us know the progress that we're doing. So it's a long-range plan.
Well, the learning loss, of course, you well know is an emotional loss also, which just makes them more difficult and perhaps expands onto that figure as some more special needs. But now you're reducing, but you still have the 1.8 million sitting there. And how are you gonna cope with, one, reducing your staff, and yet you have that money sitting there? What are you going to do with that money while you're reducing your budget, your tax dollar budget?
Right. Well, we're using it to maintain staff that we need for the learning loss right now.
So are you moving that over into ESSER funds and not counting it?
That would be true.
The best way to describe what the principal is going to see, they're going to see an LEA budget. And then they're going to see an ESSER budget, if you will. And they're going to know that that ESSER budget is a 2-year budget, maximum. And they're going to know that that money and the people associated with that money are not part of the LEA, and therefore they cannot count on them. Now, what they put into that ESSER budget, I will leave to the principals and the superintendent to negotiate that. But they will literally have 2 budgets. One for the next 2 years, and one for an ongoing basis that will grow at a small amount every year. And that's a reality check for them that they're gonna have to swallow. They can't look at this and say, oh, you guys are talking about money running out in a couple of years. I'll worry about that when the time comes.
You can't do that.
You can't.
It will
Those
not
are
be
your
that.
words about 2 months ago. They're printed in the paper, that you can't count on that money for operational costs. You have to count your
Exactly.
dollars that are going, tax dollars, I
So
call
when
them.
they get that second budget, the ESSER budget, they need to look at those positions and on those expenses, whatever they are, mostly positions, and they need to say, be prepared to say goodbye to those people.
What about with COVID, QRST?
QRST, isn't this an acronym free zone?
No. This is after O, E, Q, R, S, T.
Are you talking about variants and?
I'm talking about the next versions, the ongoing COVIDs.
Oh,
Who knows?
Put the truckers on that,
So huh?
or put the truckers on that.
Do
I wouldn't be blind to that. I mean, I would not.
I don't, well, I'll leave it to Kim to talk about how much they've learned about coping with a virus and hybrids and stay-at-homes and remotes and all the rest of that stuff. I hope the next time we're a little smarter. I don't mean we, this district, I mean the country, and maybe the world as a whole. Do I expect there will be another, pandemic? Of course. Do I think it's going to be an annual pandemic? No, I don't think so.
And just to add on to what Jeff said about the ESSER money, there are requirements that portions of that money, and I don't know the
I
percentages,
think it's 80-20, isn't it?
I'm not sure, are spent on learning loss, addressing learning loss, and addressing social emotional needs of students. So it's not, there are requirements, there are parameters to how that money can be spent.
Dominic?
Do we have that money already in the account, or is it oncoming?
It
In other
comes,
words, can we lose? Anything can happen. Is it possible to lose this money beforehand, or even though it's been said we're gonna get it, do we have it?
well, anything's possible with the feds.
That's
You know
what
that.
I'm asking.
Yes.
But it's been appropriated, and that's the critical thing.
Okay.
It's not a promise, It's been appropriated. It's legally exists.
Sitting
We
down
don't
in
have it in
Washington.
hand.
We don't have it in hand, but the printing presses are still running.
We have to, there's a way that we go about in accessing the money.
Okay, I just,
Yeah.
We're not earning interest on it, if
no,
that's your
that's
question.
not, I'm worried about possibility of losing it. That's, if you say there isn't any, I believe you.
No.
Okay. I don't trust the feds, but that's okay.
Oh, you have every reason not to trust the feds,
Okay.
but at least once it's signed legislation and signed by the president, it exists in reality, and the Federal Reserve will honor that.
Okay. Okay. That's all I got, Bernie.
As compared to Build Back Better.
You also gain an awful lot of grants over there that have special needs, and providing you have staff added on, but they're not necessarily counted as part of your total, are they not?
The grant money,
No, the employees that
employees,
are funded with the grants.
well, they are part of our FTEs, but any employee that we fund through a grant, we also are required to pay MTRS or retirement.
Yeah, benefits from
Yeah.
all that too. And you're all paid up on benefits too then?
Yeah.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
Good.
It'll be a light night perhaps, because you don't have Jody with us. He would have,
He missed us. Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank
I
you.
hope you're able to figure those things out with your budget, because Derek's up in front there, but he's very conservative with what we have, and we go over,
We
there's so
will.
many ifs in the budget and in the general environment now with inflation, et cetera.
Jim,
Tom,
Oh, thanks.
you would have noticed it.
My head would have gotten cold.
Good night.
Right.
And I thank you very much.
Oh, of course.
Hello, Claire. How are you this evening?
I'm great, thank you.
Good. Derek, how was your CPC meeting going?
They approved the change of the contingencies to before closing, I think, a 4-2-0 vote, so.
Excellent, excellent.
that Makes it a lot more palpable to get the best possible deal for the town, so.
I mentioned when we first opened, because that's when I brought up the subject of your original projections. We'll meet with Derek in 2 weeks, I think we scheduled,
Yeah.
to review all the department budgets. And I thought appropriate, since we have the expenses, would be with what the revenues are. Do you have any questions from the audience, any concerns? Anyone wish to speak? No, well, that went well.
On the golf course?
You wanted,
No, is that what you were talking about?
CBC had a meeting this evening.
Right, that's right.
And yes, that's what I was referring to. They had some issues. They're required to have certain items prior to
Right,
releasing
right,
their
right. No, I know
funds.
that, I know that.
And there was a problem with getting them in a timely fashion, based mostly on people just weren't able to do the jobs on a schedule we needed. But everything's gonna get done. Yes?
Can I ask that question on the 60 right now? Derek, what do you know about, is it 65R, you know, the taxes when it's from like agricultural and recreational versus residential?
When you're talking about, if they
The
had,
golf course,
yeah, you're talking about the, that's either
paying the back
recreational-
taxes?
Yeah, so I would look into that, because I don't know if that would convert, if it's going back, it's not,
No, it's not for the town to pay, that's not what I mean, I understand that. How many years back, is it 5 years or is it forever?
I thought it was a 5-year look-back period.
And it's only a 5-year look back?
Unless it's going into like conservation land or something like that. I don't believe you get those on the look back. If it's going
Right.
into commercial, you get it.
Right, which, because that wasn't brought up as far as, you know, other people looking at purchasing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a large expense. and that wasn't, brought up. They were saying that there were other people, interested in the property, or solar, or residential, and all that. And, that property, that we're buying it for the same price, which I still believe is a good deal, I'm not going against it. But that would add an awful lot of money to a purchaser who's gonna build homes or try to do, something like that. And that was never brought up, and I thought it should have been.
I can ask the assessing department to kind of give us a rough estimate on it.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers I kinda looked at, now, I could be wrong, but, if you go back only 5 years, you're still looking at, at least $100,000 a year. That's $500,000. And if you go back more than 5 years, that's a lot more money. So that adds a considerable price increase to someone looking to purchase that. Just my thought.
I think a 100,000 a year would have given it, what was that the?
5 years is $500,000.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to figure out the valuations on that. I think it may be, it's probably closer to 50 or so, which is nothing to sneeze at, so. But we can always get it, but just remember, it isn't, not all of that is in the, is under the, and why I can't think of the act, is in that. So for example, the clubhouse and that portion obviously couldn't be under the recreational,
Oh, the agricultural, the
Right,
65
so-
hour.
yeah, so it may not.
So you can't use the whole, I understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
I would still just be curious, and I think the public should know that,
Yeah,
at town meeting,
sure.
just some information I don't think should be held aside for people who don't know it, that's all.
Doesn't hurt to answer all the questions, right?
There you go. Thank you.
5 years.
That's been bothering me, thank you, boss.
By the way, has Don been trying to get Mr. Forget up here for, it's probably the best
The
meeting.
best
he'll-
news we've had in a long time. Now, I was on the budget committee, I worked on that, I want a pat on the back. Cause we're way down,
Yeah,
big money,
Yeah.
and if you budgeted the same last year, it's gonna be good for you to use that money elsewhere.
yeah, and
And tomorrow night, we're voting on it, so I'll
excellent.
bring you the exact number tomorrow,
We'll vote yes.
or the day. No, you're not open Friday. But,
You-
oh, you'll get it
You can
anyway.
reach me, you know how to reach me, Don.
Yeah.
So,
Now,
Okay.
Dominic,
Yes,
the student population as a whole, have they all gone down? The other communities, have they gone down, or?
this year, 2 have increased their students that are sending it, 3 have decreased. And way down, 20 students, Wareham is
Yeah,
way down, and that's why we're having tremendous savings.
Yeah, that's a
on the
lot of
budget.
kids.
But the budget also is only, I don't wanna hurt this school, but it's only 2.8% increase, which was about the same as it was last year.
yeah.
Our school committee's working on 4% the last couple of years, so, but
But Dutch
It's a
used
different
to love
school.
to say that.
It's a
I'm
different
only
school.
so percent.
And you just gotta make sure that this change, as you know, Dom, you don't budget it all at once into operating, because
Right.
could be a swing up next year if we have an increase in population, but
yeah, an increase in
but it
students,
certainly
that's the
helps
key.
us here,
Yeah,
so,
what's the key?
so, much appreciated, thank you.
Derek, if I may, we were talking with them earlier about their ESSER monies. How much does the town have for this coming fiscal year?
For the CARES, excuse me, the
CARES Act.
ARPA, we have 4.4 coming out of the Plymouth County allocation. So, the Board of Selectmen has asked to be part of that, so, Mr. McDonald will be bringing forward some information to them on, some of the things, the most recent release and guidance. Basically, some of the things that are, if you do this, no problem whatsoever. There's some funding capital up to about a million, which does not require as much paperwork or backup on it, believe it or not, so. And it'd be up, on this one, it'd be up to the Board of Selectmen, I believe, to start putting together their thought process for it. We obviously, we have great needs from everything from Fearing Hill, the bridge over there that needs to be done. It's the pier everywhere, so you could spend that in a heartbeat, but I think disbursement across the community would really be a big help.
Yeah.
So,
And Claire, we have a nice air-conditioned auditorium downstairs now.
Yes, I can't wait.
and heated,
I can't wait.
so.
Any other questions, gentlemen? There being none? Well, the ones who usually make the motion are gone, so you're gonna have to fill in.
Make a motion to adjourn.
May I have a second?
Second.
Want to discuss it? All those in favor say aye.
Nay.
It's a vote. Motion adjourned.
Aye.
Carried.
Oh, oh.